It's never been so easy to make tons of GP in RuneScape 3, and today's money-making guide is going to showcase my favourite super relaxed and almost AFK money-making method using waterfiends. For today's video, we will be looking at how the combination of archaeology and combat can multiply your bank in a short period of time. Whenever I'm running low on GP and need some cash for new items and I'm not wanting to slog away intensively at high level bosses, I use ancient summoning pouches and hunt waterfiends. Of course, there are multiple different pouches that you can create. Waterfiends is one of them. You've got Ripper demons, you've got Calgarian demons, but for this one, it is of course waterfiends. It's super open for a lot of people to use. You don't need that many requirements, and so let's first look at the requirements. In order to actually be able to use ancient summoning pouches, you will first need to have reached level 68 in archaeology. So you can boost up to this using archaeology potions, which I highly recommend if you're wanting to just get this out if you haven't got the archaeology level, or just spend a bit of money and actually train up archaeology to get to this level, and then have completed the Day Gone By mystery and have signed a pack with Dagon. So it's super easy. The mystery, there's tons of guides on YouTube that you can do, or you can have a look at the RuneScape wiki. Make sure that you've done that, and then we come back to this video and have a look. In terms of level recommended combat requirements, I would suggest minimum Armadillo gear with tier 80 range weapons, such as the kind of royal crossbow or anything higher tier than that. Of course, you can use any of the range gear. I would highly recommend using range if you want to be able to pretty much AFK this thing entirely, or alternatively use mage, because you can get the AoE and you can just basically increase the amount of kills you're getting an hour, which is highly recommended. Of course, any of the boostable items that will basically boost up your hit points is obviously something you'll want to do. So bringing a blood necklace or amulet of souls for the passive healing, and you could even use vampirism aura, or also using penance aura at the same time, because that will basically provide healing or prayer bonus, which can be used for soul split. So you can kind of debatably use either. I highly recommend you using Soul Split anyway and just tanking the hits and then just basically AoEing everything around. Of course, you may want to bring a Steel Titan with, of course, the scrolls, which I highly recommend just to increase the DPS, and it's not that costly. You could use something more costly, but whether or not that will actually gain you any money from actually using things like Ripper Demons and stuff like that, it's just completely down to you. But of course, you can do it however you want. I would always use the highest stat boosting potions you have, such as overloads or supreme overloads, to increase your DPS. And of course, one of the most important parts to actually making the setup work is that you bring in magic notepaper, which is essential to basically reduce your banking, because the pouches can be noted. Of course, what you can do is use your pouches and then convert them into a noted version, so you can continuously just farm the pouches, and that's kind of the key problems that you'll face if you don't use magic notepaper, is that your inventory fills up super quickly, and of course then you've got to go and bank. So always bring magic notepaper. It's super cheap anyway now. They used to be a ton of money, but yeah, at the current prices they're super cheap, so it doesn't really matter. In order to first start this money-making method, what you'll have to do is actually get yourself some binding contracts in the first place. So if you want to make them, you can. They're super easy to make. They just take a little bit of time, and you can make about 1,200 per hour roughly, depending on your speed, what other kind of places you're using. If you're using Prifddinas, maybe using somewhere else. Prifddinas is ideal location to be able to make them. But yeah, just dependent on what you've got unlocked and stuff like that as to how many you can make an hour. Of course, the more you can make an hour, the more money you can make an hour. So yeah, ultimately you want to be having Prifddinas. But how do you actually make them? Well, they do require 1 blue charm, 1 normal pouch, 2 Blood of Orcus, and 2 Hellfire Metals, along with 200 Spirit Shards. So it costs you in the region of about 30,000 GP, 30 to 35,000, dependent on prices. Obviously, they can fluctuate, so just check at the time of when you're watching this video as to whether or not it's actually worth it for you. Because if the pouches themselves only sell for 40,000 and you're spending 30,000 to actually make them, then it's not going to work. Vice versa, if they're 100,000 and they're only costing you 20,000, you can make a hell of a lot more. And so the variety in fluctuation of the pouches can make the method better or worse, so just check first. Obviously, in order to actually create the pouches, you have to go to an obelisk, a summoning obelisk. You need to have all of those materials and then go to the obelisk, create the pouches. And the best way of doing it is using a pack yak or the highest beast of burden that you have. Fill it with obviously all of the items required to kind of optimize it so that you get the most out of all of the spaces in your inventory and the pack yak as well. And then what you can do is you just convert them into the pouches at the obelisk. They don't really give you any summoning experience, so don't worry about that. But so it's purely about speed, how many can you get out, and obviously you'll be wanting to use the attuned crystal teleport seed if you've got one. If you haven't, what you can do is go to Prifddinas and then just travel to the summoning obelisk and use the bank nearby to be able to just transport to there, which is really, really easy to do, super, super quick, and I highly recommend doing that. That will give you about 1200 pouches per hour, and that will be factored into the profit later on. So where is the best place to actually do waterfiend and using the binding contracts? Well, there are two main places, and of course those are going to be the spotlights of today's video. So number one is the personal Slayer dungeon, and this is the actual optimal setup, the best place that you can use, because ultimately it's a big flat area. You can spawn as many as you can in that area, and then you can basically just sit there with your Steel Titan and you can just farm out a ton of water fiends, and you don't really have to do anything. Super easy to get to. Of course, the Slayer Cape allows you to travel there, or at least once you've unlocked the kind of teleport to the personal Slayer dungeon, then it's even quicker to get there. And then of course the other alternative place is to go to Curadel and run south into the cavern using the 99 Slayer Cape if you have that. Or alternatively, the other way of getting there is to travel using the games necklace to the Barbarian Outpost, running south, and then you'll get to the Whirlpool, jump into the Whirlpool, and then the Waterfiend area will be on the map and you can just go there. Super easy to get to. And the third option is to go using fairy rings, and you can basically teleport there. If you've unlocked fairy ring teleportation and it's super easy to get there, is BJQ is the code that you'll have to use. Currently, you can expect to earn about 35,000 GP per pouch created, and with an average rate of about 500 water fiends an hour. If you can consistently deal with that, then you'll be able to earn a decent chunk of money. That's the lower end, so that's if you're AFKing, not really paying too much attention. Obviously, if you're then using the personal Slayer dungeon and you're really focusing and trying hard, then you may be able to get this up to about 800 per hour. Of course, that's with super intensive and like the top end. From this and the actual creation of the pouches, you would expect between 12 million and 18.5 million GP per hour. So this is really, really good GP per hour considering the requirements, and effectively this is probably the best money making method that you can do that doesn't require you to boss essentially and get lucky with some of the drops. So it's really, really exceptional for an all year round money making method. And similarly, it's always best to actually save up the pouches you create until double XP, where the demand is dramatically increased for archaeology, and they typically rise in price far higher to about 90,000 per pouch instead of what they currently are at, which is about 58,000 or like 60,000 in the region at the moment. So you can almost get another like 50% more kind of GP per pouch. So you could make up to 27 million per hour on the high end, and obviously 17 million on the low end. So this is amazing, especially considering recently there's been a double XP and you could have taken advantage of that, because I certainly did and made a killing from the amount of GP that I made from the water fiends. This one is a pretty quick and short guide, so let me know what you think, and if you want any specific guides, comment them down below. Don't forget to subscribe and check out this video on the Ripper Demon equivalent for the binding contracts on the left hand side of the screen right now, and the Runescape guide playlist with loads of different other money making guides and skill guides on the right hand side. I hope to see you in one of those, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.